Hello. Welcome to everybody who's joined in. We've got the British Grand Prix ahead of us, and these guys have not headed out for qualifying. There you go. We've got our first couple of cars heading out for qualifying. I'm ISRL Knight, joined here with ISRL Carter for this weekend of racing, and we've got Division 3 out on track. Now, Carter, I did take a quick peek at the weather. It's a little bit cloudy here. It's going to be very rainy in the race.
I just got word from Bumblebee in the comments section.
Do you want to take us through, I guess, what that implies here for these drivers is that they head out for qualifying?
I mean, there's one section of this track that's already infamous even in the dry, and that's got to be Maggots and Beckett's. But one place that I'm really interested to see how these guys are going to be able to manage in the wet is Cop's Corner. I mean, in Division that couple of drivers also at Maggots and Beckett's on the last lap chaos that we had in Division 4. So I think hopefully these guys would have practiced a little bit on the wet at this track beforehand. So hopefully for some of them it won't be as difficult maneuvering this great track.
And obviously free tire choice, essentially, with the lack of, I guess the lack of tire choice gives you a free tire choice for qualifying. You don't have to qualify on the mediums. You don't have to qualify on the softs there to try to get a better strategy. Everybody's going to be starting on the wet or the inters. We still got to kind of see what tire they're going to be starting on. But we do know that I guess qualifying is going to determine grid order. It won't determine any tire or pit strategy. And from the graphic I saw, it looks like the rain's going to be consistent through to the end of the Grand Prix, at least 45 minutes in, so it's going to be a very wet race here in Silverstone. You kind of expect that from the British Isles. It is notoriously rainy, but you don't expect it to be, I guess, raining for the whole race there with no interruptions. So these drivers, I think, going to have quite a challenge on their hands.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be a marathon, if anything else, as a lot of these wet weather races are here in ISRL. It's just who can manage it best, who's got the temperament and the mind strength to just get through it. But just have to wait and see on that. We've got a couple cars out on track now. Both Haas's and the Maverick are on a timed lap at the moment. Actually, CJ Butch and Always Rick, the two Williams, as well out.
Yeah, Sprunky was on a pretty fast lap there. I saw him set the fastest sector 1, though. Obviously with
I don't know how that works.
Well, with nobody really out on a lap in front of them there, they're all going to show up purple, aren't they? But he is coming around here. Sprunky, he invalidated this one, but we saw him get terrible luck in Azerbaijan, leading the race and going wide, clipping the wall there on like lap 2, I think, and finishing his weekend early. In Belgium as well, not having the best of luck, so looking to turn his season around there. He is, I think, when he's on the pace, somebody who could be a championship favorite, just not quite able to put the results together this week, it seems, or this season.
Yeah, and it could be a lot of factors that go into it, and sometimes it's just luck. Sometimes, you're just not on it this year. Maybe it's the car, or just the circumstances of some of these, how some of these races play out. But yeah, wouldn't be surprised at all to maybe see him put a challenge to the likes of F1 Richie, Stunek, and some of these other guys like Azen, who just go ahead and sets the fastest lap of qualifying so far, about 5/10 ahead of CJ Butch.
Yeah, Azen with a 125.5, seeing himself now as a very strong championship favorite. Nick Potgieter making the move to Division 2. It wasn't because he was too fast or anything. There was a seat open, and it was offered to him, and he took it. So he is going to be moving up a division here, and it's quite opened up the championship, hasn't it? With now Sunik, Azen, Chris, with Maldonado and Potgieter gone, it's kind of shaking up this ladder. And we've got a lot more people who are now in championship contention.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because of those two drivers leaving, it's catapulted a Stunek from kind of the 4th to 8th range. He's into the top 3 though he's got a little bit of ground to make up if he wants to catch F1 Richie. But I mean, really, from second all the way down to, I could even say, 8th, where Bumblebee is, it's, you know, just any mistake on any given race can just change the entire projection of the standings.
Yeah, F1 Richie is still the man to beat there. 145 points. He's in the lead of the championship by about, quick maps here, 27 points.
27.
So, it's still, if F1 Richie gets a DNF, you don't even need a win. I think a top 5 will essentially tie you with him. But he's not a man who DNFs often, and that's how he's gotten those consistent results, despite not having a win this year yet. He's just been able to put that car and finishing strong. I think he has the most podiums out of anybody in Division 3 this season. And just able to get the consistent results. That's why he's leading the championship.
And I'm really glad that you brought up that point. I didn't even really realize it at first, but without a win and still 27 points clear, that's that consistency that, you know, you really want to look for in some of these drivers. I want to go quickly back to the craziness of last week at Belgium, and we had an upset winner, if you will, ISRL Bumblebee, catching everyone by surprise. A little bit off the pace right now, maybe didn't get a good lap in. He's going to come back in and try again, but definitely want to keep an eye on him to see how he responds. He's definitely got a lot of added pressure after that huge win last weekend.
Yeah, and his teammate as well, coming back from a race ban there that he incurred in Baku off of that safety car restart incident. And so Bumblebee, coming off a win, like you said, he's a little bit off the pace, but I don't think that's his true pace there. No. Definitely either took it easy or made a mistake or something. And then his teammate already up into P2. So Chris looking like he's got something to prove. You know, he's trying to fight back there after kind of being put on show by his teammate. And we all know the I guess the tempers that were flaring between the two of them and what was said. So he's looking at something to prove. Bumblebee's trying to prove that it wasn't a fluke, that he can get consistent results. So expect the racing points today, I think, to at least get a lot of screen time. I know Bumblebee's going to be fighting quite hard there, so long as he's still, you know, in the race. Yeah, I think we're going to see at least some fighting there. Maybe Shades of Russia again, the two fighting together. That would be fun to see. Yeah, expect more. Yeah, expect more to develop out of that Racing Point garage. They've definitely been our drama center this season, so looking for a little bit more out of these two.
Yeah, and can't really say that I don't expect more to happen, but I guess that's just for the good of the entertainment value. But let's see, one guy who's yet to set a lap is Bacher. I've been on with him. This lap goes a bit deep, going through Maggots and Beckett's. He set up purple sector 1, definitely not a good sector 2, so he might just come in this lap rather than set a lap that's not relative to his pace, or he just might want to get a lap just on the board just in case, and I think that's exactly what he's going to do. I
do believe so, yeah. He is coming around the final corner now. Sets P7, so it's still not a bad lap there. Wow. These drivers starting to dip into the 125s. I fully expect most of the grid to be in the 125s if they go out and set another lap. 125.5 for Aizen, pretty respectable. Then you got two 125.6s right behind him, Craigo and Chris, who are quite close. So about a tenth separating the top three here now. F1 Richie on the second row of the grid, 125.7. And then after that, it's on the 126.
Back, or excuse me, he's only a tenth back as well from Aizen. Richie is.
Yeah, well, he's almost two full tenths, but yeah, tenth and a half there. So it's still very close. The gap between Chris and F1 Richie is only about it's less than a tenth. It's about 600ths of a second. So four hundredths of a second. I'm bad at math. All right.
I promise you it's 700ths of a second.
Monkeys is on a lap here, coming through the Vale and into Club. And is he... Yeah, I think he is. That is the end of his hot lap. So he's going to go P5. And, oh, yeah.
Wow.
I told you, times are going to start dipping to the 125s. Monkey getting himself at a 125.752. So himself as well, right behind Richie. He still has got enough time for another lap. should definitely be seeing some more action on track from the Red Bull, who's without a teammate this weekend, but he is trying to defend that surprise podium he got here last season.
Yeah, and so far, doing the best that he can, and it's pretty freaking good. He's already at P5, just a dip under 2/10 off of Aizen, who just went out actually for another lap, but could not improve on his time. So is that a sign of things to come for Aizen? Was that the best he could do? Can he improve on it? Just have to wait and see.
Now, the last time Aizen got pole position, it was in France, and obviously right off the bat, that was with Welsh Maldonado there, who managed to overtake him pretty far off the start. Then he kept up for most of the race, but basically had a very lonely podium in France, where we didn't see it. It was kind of 5 seconds behind Welsh, 10 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack. And so we know that he's got that pace that he needs to set distance between himself and the pack, but and with no Welsh, with no Nick Pogacar this time around, I think Aizen's going to have a definitely a very solid chance there at maybe pulling out his first win of the season.
If he keeps that P1 at the moment, shows some good pace early, I can't really say I disagree with you, but here comes F1 Richie starting one more hot lap.
Take a look here.
He's got a lot of hungry drivers behind him.
Yeah, I'll take a look here on board with F1 Richie. And as he's going through Village and into the loop right here, about to head over to the Wellington Street, gets a little bit wide there, gets a little bit of grass.
Not a place where you usually see guys go wide.
No, I mean, if you're getting a little too eager on the throttle, putting it down a little too early, maybe that goes in and causes it, but it didn't look, I think he just kind of opened the steering wheel too much and stuck with it instead of correcting. Shouldn't cost him too much time, though. I mean, he's still on some good pace as heading into Stowe, and this is so important to just keep the car steady through these corners, these swooping S's, and you get a bad exit, you get a bad entry into any one of them, and it just kind of it catapults into a series of getting progressively worse through them, doesn't it? It's you mess up one of them, you end up losing a lot of time towards the end of it.
But that's the exact opposite of what F1 Richie just did. Went ahead and set the fastest second sector of the session so far.
Oh, he's gonna dive into the pits. Not happy with that one.
Okay, well, must know something that we don't.
That first sector must have cost him a lot of time, because as soon as he got to the pit entrance, he dove in. 4 minutes and 18 seconds left in qualifying. So he's got enough time to put another set of tires on, go for one last lap. He's P4, so it's not like he's, he has to set a lap either. I think he's still going to be starting in the top 10 regardless. So why not go and try to extract the maximum out of that car?
Oh, Sprunky's around and Beckett's hard into the wall, and he's out.
Oh, Sprunky. And Sprunky will run on board with Ix here, who is trying to set his first flying lap. And is that's on the exit, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, there you go. We see that Haas over on the right-hand side. Sprunky not able to set a lap time, and I was talking earlier about that bad luck that he has seemingly these past couple of races. Is that it coming into play again?
I mean, it looked like a pretty a normal kind of spin, not like something we'd see from Sprunky. But then again, it's been catching everyone out so far, especially in D4. So I guess it can really happen to anyone. But yeah, it's a bad break for Sprunky, but kind of gets him, maybe out of the way a little bit, kind of, especially with the wet race and a slow start and into turn one. Sure, he'd rather be, kind of behind everyone rather than in amongst all the chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, who's that? That's Bakker going fastest. So great lap from Bakker there to steal pole position from Aizen, but is Aizen going to be setting another lap? He's in the pits right now.
If he wants to, he's got to go now. But even if he does go now, he's on thin ice. He's really pushing it, but for right now, it doesn't look like he's going to go out again. But maybe not another clean set of tires. But you'd think, especially with the wet race, that you'd use all three of these tires.
Yeah, Crago is on a out lap as of now, so maybe that Ferrari gonna have a chance to go out. I think these guys, they got to start coming out of the pits right now if they want another chance to set a lap. Minute and a half here around the circuit, so got to get yourself at least 30 seconds. And I do see an AlphaTauri heading out of the pits. I see a Ferrari. That would be F1 Richie. And is Aizen? Aizen's already on his out lap. Yeah.
Yep.
So all of these guys again going for another lap. Cozy is coming around here. Ix has retired, but that's in the pits. He's not going to have enough time to set another lap. Cozy starting
Chris
his final flyer.
Goes second
Almost,
fastest,
yeah.
Proves his time.
So Chris going up to P2, and that's putting a bit of a middle finger towards his teammate there, who's toiling in 14th right now. I mean, wet race, anything can happen, but Chris definitely trying to show that, that win Bumblebee last week, yeah, I can do better than that. Of course, you got to deliver a win to beat a win. Qualifying near the front isn't going to give you more points than a win would, but Chris definitely trying to show who's number one in that team. Cozy is...
Whoa! Monkeys just clipped the curve on the final corner, then spun. He's laying in the middle of the track with the wheel broken.
And we're going to see it on board of Aizen here. He had set... Yeah, he's not in the way, but that is a treacherous place to have the car. As Aizen starts his flying lap. And hopefully that doesn't come in and affect too many people here. Krago's coming around the final corner. He looks like he's got some pace. And he improves by 10th. Goes right ahead of Chris. And then CJ Butch beats the both of them. F1 Richie starting his flying lap right behind them.
The AlphaTauris.
Yeah, Cozy coming through the final corner now.
The Stunik just barely. He's starting his final lap with 10 seconds to spare, and the two teammates didn't get out of each other's way. And now the Stunik's lap is ruined.
I don't think Stunik was going to qualify.
You don't think so?
But no, he came out late. I think it was just to give a tow to Cozy and lock in his setup. We hadn't seen him on track all session. So I think I want to say that was planned by the AlphaTauris. Yeah, I'm not sure. Always Rick goes P8 further down the grid. Aizen is the next man to cross the line though, and he's got quite a distance to the line and a lot of room to make mistakes, but he only has to improve by a 10th to get top 3, by 3/10 to get pole position. Coming through club, what is Aizen going to do? And he's going to go P2. Aizen just barely, and gets himself on the front row at the very least, and that's a great lap there from the Mercedes.
That close.
Yeah, it's, 300ths of a second behind CJ Bush. We're going to have a Williams Mercedes front row.
What can F1 Richie do, though? He's still
is F1 Richie still on his lap? He is.
No.
He does improve, but not enough.
Shocker. He's P6, so amongst that top 6, top 7 group of cars, but you'd think he definitely wanted to be a little bit higher than that. CJ Butch with a great lap, and he's on pole.
Yeah, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. F1 Richie always qualifies 5th or 6th. Does it not?
You're right.
Yeah, he's never at the front row. He's never on the second row. He's always just somewhere on the third row. And I don't know if that's intentional or not. Like, could he be lifting before the first corner, just trying to get, this better chance into turn 1? Maybe he doesn't want to be in the middle of a dive bomb or something.
Yeah, I think, but with this wet race and into turn 1, like I mentioned earlier, maybe if that is indeed his strategy, I'd rather either want to be starting first or last, especially here. That's just my personal opinion. I want the chaos to happen in front of me.
Another thing to consider, and One Wing did bring this up in our comment section here, is that some of these guys may not have used wet setups for qualifying.
Wow.
Could that be the case for Richie? Could he just be using a wet setup?
If that's the case, if a lot of these guys used a dry setup, I understand, wanting to get good starting position, but this is like, a 10th of this entire event. You've got 20 something odd laps in the wet on a dry setup. at this track may not bode well. But then again, I'm just a commentator in the booth watching all these guys do it. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and commentator who was on Minecraft instead of putting in that practice work this morning. So
Hey,
don't
I need my wheel.
don't don't take his word for it.
And there's the rain that Bumblebee had.
Yep, and it is
stowed.
quite heavy rain. I think that might still be inches. I'm going to take a peek here.
Close to the pit lane.
Oh, it does look like wets from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a head shake from monkeys. That is, they are on the wet, so it's a little bit more wet than I expected. So no inters. Is the rain going to stay that way though, or are we going to see maybe some inters further down in the race? It's going to be a tricky turn one. Got to tell you, I'm normally not very happy to see 16. Well, I mean, it's 16 drivers is still a lot of drivers, still 16 drivers, but you always want 20. But with conditions like that, sometimes as a driver, you're like, well, you know what? Out of all the races we could have had 16 people for, this is not a bad one.
Yeah, the less cars that have a chance of quote-unquote ruining my race, the better. I mean, but yeah, especially in the wet, tricky conditions. I can't wait to see how these guys go through Maggots and Beckett's in Cop's Corner for the first time. Who has the mental wherewithal to maybe not go for it all the first time through?
Yeah, we're just waiting on the drivers to ready up here. Definitely not a sight that these fans are going to be too unused to, seeing the rain around Silverstone.
Two umbrellas, though.
Yeah, the word is the silver in Silverstone is actually a reference to the color of the sky. So, because, you know, I don't know, I'm just making it up. I'm trying to make content, man. Because it's because of the clouds, and it's always raining, you know?
We'll go with that.
I feel like I'm going to have some British people sliding into my DMs here and telling me off. I'll have you know, we had sunshine yesterday. And it lasted 8 whole minutes. But anyways, so getting ready to start there, Cozy with the ready up, but I know he's in a party with the division host, so more than likely was given the okay. And we're about to get started onto the formation lap, onto this Division 3 Grand Prix. After qualifying, Carter, do you have any predictions, bold or not, of how we're going to see a podium play out here?
Well, let's see. Let me get a good look at the order again. I think I'm going to make a bold prediction. Chris is going to grab a podium here and really kind of set the stage for this inter-team rivalry for the rest of the season. I mean, we kind of had one. We have, but I think especially after Bumblebee's win last weekend, if Chris can go up there and get a P2 or maybe even a win, I think we'll really start to see the elbows start to come out between the two racing points.
Yeah, and I mean, Chris this would be his third, if he gets a podium here, I think it would be his third podium of the season, but of course, 3 third places, you don't get that many more points than a win. I mean, he's got a second place in there, which gives you a nice hefty dose of points. But the win you get so many points that if Bumblebee can just get another win at some point in the season, like he's catching up to Chris, you know. Oh, Hartman joining. That's pretty late there for the Red Bull driver. Don't know if he's going to be able to get into the race. Which is already we're already an hour and a half past when the race was supposed to start. So, well, not supposed to, but without the time zone change would have started. So, not sure. So he must have missed the memo there, but don't think he's going to be able to get into the race here at this point. It's a little late for that. So we should start with 16 guys on the grid, I believe. And yeah, I was on.
Just as we have it now.
Yeah, I was on board with some of these guys during the formation lap, and it is very wet out there. Very, very wet.
Yeah, even on this off-board cameras, with even just the spray on the formation lap, watching CJ Butch, you can't see halfway down the hangar straight almost. You definitely can't see back to Maggots and Beckett's with all the spray. With
all these cars, essentially just when they're going at race speed, it's going to be a very, very misty track there. Sprunky Sunic Maverick
Always Rick's leaving his teammate out to dry here. Maybe not to dry, but kind of give a big gap, and it's going to really hurt his teammate and a lot of these other guys up front, colder tires.
Is this a case of maybe, you know, them taking a little bit too much speed through their formational lap as well?
That could also be the case. Maybe, you know, not getting their tires warmed up enough.
We'll see how this affects them here as we get ready for the 5 lights. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And they're off in Silverstone, and it looks like a good start, but a lot of wheel spin for Aizen. He's going to get the McLaren of Bakker, try to squeeze around the outside. Looks like everyone's going through pretty good at the front. It's CJ Butch, Aizen, Bakker, Chris taking a position off the start. Looks like Crago's going to try to go down the inside. Chris gives him a squeeze. Good save by Crago to keep that Ferrari pointed the right way. It's going to let his teammate through in F1 Richie. So Crago down 2 positions off the start here. Monkeys holds position. F1 Richie gets by Chris. Back. Chris is having some problems here, and he's fallen behind Crago again. Was that intentional, or did you just get wheel spin? I'm not sure. Ick's going for a move on Monkeys. Ick's going for a move on Monkeys right behind them at the end of the Wellington straight. So it looks like everybody made it through turn 1 okay. That's some good driving from these guys to get off the line. Oh, look at this. Bakker getting a run on Aizen, getting a run on CJ Butch. And Bakker is going to take the lead of the Grand Prix into Stowe. And it's Bakker in the McLaren P1, CJ Butch P2, Aizen P3, right behind them, F1 Richie in the Ferrari. And these guys right away changing positions. Switching around on the track, and who's that? Crago going a little bit wide through Beckett's there, and onto the hangar straight. Aizen's going to go onto the outside. Can he get a run on CJ Butch? No, not enough speed there for the McLaren. F1 Richie behind him, just holding on. Is there some action further back? Looks like
there was.
Ix and Monkeys have swapped positions. We saw that earlier in the lap. Sprunky is up quite a few. He's into 10th. Cozy, where did Cozy start? Did something happen to Cozy as he goes around Chill Mo here into Club? And Mo, oh, that's an awkward line from Mo there. He's going to lose a lot of speed onto the main pit straight. And onto lap 2 we go. That was a exciting first lap, but I've noticed a bit of a gap here between P13 and the front of the pack. Did something happen further back?
I'm not sure. I saw on turn 1, I saw 1 or 2 little end plates start to go flying through the sand trap, but I don't think it was anything too serious. But speaking of gaps, Bakker and Aizen have kind of just, at least on the straight, looked like just checked out from the rest of these guys. Aizen was able to get back in front of CJ Butch, but I mean Bakker, that move going into Stowe, it was either he was make it or break it, and he just was barely able to get enough room before Stowe to get first place.
And Bakker getting past Aizen and CJ Butch there on the same straightaway. He just had an absolute monster run, and managing to take both positions, hold on to the lead. Now he's got a 2.1 second gap.
And really the only thing pressuring him is the weather conditions at this point. You mentioned a good 2-second gap to Aizen, and then another 2-second gap to the pole sitter. And F1 Richie starting to put some pressure on CJ Butch, getting within about 5/10 of the Williams, and it's got his teammate Crago right behind him. And Chris, as you mentioned, had some wheel spin right before that first straightaway, and saw him fall down the order, just really had nowhere to go without running into anyone, so lifted off the gas and kind of let the other guys by.
Yeah, Aizen with the fastest lap, so he did manage to catch up slightly on that second lap there, and somehow, and unless there was an invalidation or something from Bakker, but carrying on here, we got the 2 Ferraris pressuring CJ Butch. Ix has had a good start. He's right behind them, and now we're seeing a bit of a train forming up behind him with Chris, Monkeys, always Rick, Sprunky, one wing, all the way down to Cozy.
Even you could add Chilmo and a Stunik in there as well. I mean, this is a huge train of cars right here.
Yeah, and they're all just sort of stuck right now. It looks like Ix has gotten away from these guys, and they're now behind Chris, who's just had a bit of a wiggle there, and yeah, just not having a great race. I mean, he's better off than his teammate, who's down in 4:15, so that might have been one of the end plays that we saw. But nobody pitting, nobody needing any repairs. Chris going wide. Is that going to open the door for Monkeys? Oh, he definitely thought about it, but just getting a little bit edged out there. Did not have the line he wanted into Maggots, and forced to take it easy. Is that wing damage from Monkeys?
I thought I saw just a glimpse of an implacement. No, it looks like he's got his whole front wing, but definitely under a lot of pressure from always Rick. Just not having the room nor the time to make a move yet, but he's got Sprunky and One Wing, both the Haas teammates, ready to pounce given the opportunity.
Yeah, down Vale and
side by side now.
Through Club there, we're seeing just the rear view, and look at all these cars right behind Always Rick.
Something's got to give here.
Yeah. I think there's something brewing. We're getting penalties further back for the Alpha Tauri. Something happened there. Oh, Monkeys with a big moment coming through turn 1, but does a good job keeping it on track. And still, that dirty air from Chris. Chris is 3.2 seconds back of Ix now, so Ix is just cruising away. We're seeing some positions flip at the front. That's F1 Richie getting past CJ Butch, and F1 Richie into the podium places. And now he's got the hard job of... Ooh,
did they make contact?
It almost looked like it. Almost looked like CJ Butch made contact there, and now it's going to be Krago having a go on CJ Butch. Can he squeeze it down the inside and through onto the... Oh my goodness. All the way up to Stowe. It's going to be Krago who gets the move done right before the old pit straight there. And CJ Butch losing another position. Now he's got Ix right behind him. Not going well. Not going well for CJ Butch, though. I think he might have been one of those guys qualifying on a dry setup now who's struggling in the wets.
Yeah, and I think just for comparison, Ix, you'd have to think he qualified on a wet setup because he is catching at a rapid rate of knots to CJ Butch. He's going to get that, a triple slipstream almost, actually double from the Ferrari and Williams. But again, without that aid of DRS, it's going to be a little bit difficult. What's happened here?
There's a yellow flag. I think that's just Bumblebee having a moment because I don't see any other cars
Ix and
back.
Butch made contact.
Oh, I missed that. I was on board. I had a front wing angle from Butch there, so we missed the contact. We did see a little moment. Doesn't look like there's any damage on either car, so it should be all right for the time being. But again, Bakker, Aizen still working their way, just leaving the pack in the dust, I guess in the mist, given the weather conditions, and getting a big gap. And now Chris is starting to claw back just a little bit. Towards Ix, as Ix, Krago, and CJ Butch are fighting. But you can just see just how tentative he has to be on the exit of every corner, and he takes a penalty there. And just getting so much wheel spin. And still, there's a big train right behind Monkeys, right behind Chris. Without that DRS, it seems nobody's able to pass. Sprunky just not able to get a run on Monkeys. Rick not able to get a run on Sprunky. Just everyone's kind of held in place right now.
This is like a waiting game of epic proportions here. Who's got the patience? It's only lap 5. Got plenty of time. Weather can change. Actually, it doesn't sound like it's going to in this instance, but still so many things can happen. You've got to be patient here.
Yeah, and I tell you who is not enjoying this. It's got to be Isunik there, who's worked up from dead last on the starting grid. And now he's just stuck behind the two Haas's, the Williams, and a Red Bull.
And the other Alpha Tauri, Joseph Cozy, not having the race so far he would have liked, but with a lot of incidents, it's kind of to be expected here. I'm sorry, my goodness, the gap that Bakker has put on Aizen, and I guess those two have put on the rest of the field just in the span of 6 laps is unbelievable.
These guys they're loving this wet weather right now. Yeah, absolutely. Like you look at an onboard from Aizen and Bakker, and just look at their car control and through the corners. We'll flip to another guy further down the pack here, and you'll just see how much more planted these cars are, and that's why they're able to build that gap. The car is glued to the road here despite the rain.
I think another thing is, especially for Bakker's case, and even Aizen, he's not close enough, but no spray really to get in their way and disrupt their vision. So that's got to be another factor contributing to it.
And just looking at Ix here, we're on board with them, getting a lot of wheel spin, having to correct the steering wheel through the corner, so tentative on the acceleration. You can just see, and Ix is having a great race. Like, he's one of the quicker guys in the rain right now, and even then, it looks just like there's such a difference between himself and Aizen and Bakker right now.
Yeah, it's almost like there's levels to it right now, and it's kind of hard to really put a pinpoint on it, on what's really helping Bakker and Aizen, and what's different between those two and Ix. I guess maybe one of them's the dirty ear of CJ Butch, can't really be helping Ix. Thought about he might go into the pits there for a second, decides to carry on. And these two are actually starting to catch Krago just a little bit. So look for a battle brewing here in the next couple laps.
Yeah, they were right behind Krago. They've dropped off a little bit. Now they're starting to catch back up, so maybe just some fuel tire strategies coming into play. But that train we saw behind Monkeys is starting to spread out a little bit now. Two Haas's are now close to each other.
Yeah, and always Rick still trying to put the pressure on Monkeys, but yeah, as you said, as that train starts to kind of stretch out a little bit, might start to see a bit more conservative driving, especially it's still early on in the race, still 19 laps to go. Don't want to be trying to go for it all too early and find yourself in the walls.
No, and I mean, it's wet. At this break, there's probably going to be a safety car at some point. If that's if you don't end up having a change on to inters at some point either. So a lot of race to go, and just looking at the spray, looking at the line, it's nowhere close to inters, but maybe that rain dries up by the end of the race. Or not dries up, but at least dries up enough that we can pull out the green wall tires.
And then if that is the case, if that does happen, then we'll really start to see some strategy start to play in. Who's going to be bold enough to be the first one to try it, and will they try it at the right time? That's going to be one of the big keys if it does indeed play out that way.
Bakker, Aizen, they don't have to gamble on pit strategy. They're far enough that if somebody in the back of the pack gambles on a pit stop, they have the gap to still come out ahead of them, even if it's the better strategy. So they're all right. If you're getting towards the midfield, though, Krago, CJ Butch, Ix, they're not on the podiums, but they're not super far from the pack either. Then that could really seriously affect them. Oh, there's a Monkeys Red Bull having a moment through turn one. He's going to lose 2 positions to, or is it going to be 2? It's going to be Sprunky trying a move.
And there goes Monkeys, saved it somehow.
And we had some bad camera angles there. I was trying to flip through the cars, and I kept getting these side pod shots. And Monkey's going to lose some more positions as the 2 Haas's get by him. It was Rick at first there. I think he had a moment, went deep into turn 1. There's going to be an Alpha Tauri of a Sunic making a move now. And is Monkey's going to try to force it back? Whoa. Yes, he is down the inside. He's going to force the Sunic right around the outside. Who's going to get the better traction here?
Oh, no,
Sunic, he had the better traction, but he put the gas too early. Goes a little bit wide, forced to step off so he doesn't go in the gravel. Now he's going to chase down Monkeys into Stowe, and not going to be close enough there. Not going to be close enough.
Really worried about the Sunic going through cops after he just had a little bit of a trip through the gravel or the sand trap, but able to keep it going in the right direction. But Monkeys, I think had a little bit of wheel spin going into turn 3, kind of an inopportune time as well. As now as Sunic gets a good slipstream, they're going to go side by side again. Who's going to get the move done? Still side by side here. Is Sunic trying to go around the outside?
Just forces it. What a move there. Oh, who's that behind there? Bumblebee having a moment. And Sunic just making his way around the outside of the Red Bull there. That's quite a few positions lost for Monkeys in the corner. But again, a lot of time to catch up.
Yeah, and now a lot of the gaps really from 10th on up starting to spread out a little bit. It's definitely Ix and CJ Butch, who still is something happened to CJ Butch because Ix has gone from a second to 5/10. Maybe just a bit of a glitch in the timings, but
well, he's catching up considerably here. I tell you who's probably breathing a sigh of relief right now. It's always Rick, who since clearing Monkeys has caught up almost a second to ISRL Chris, who himself is kind of catching up to Ix. He's getting there under 2 seconds. It was a 2.9 seconds earlier, so he's caught up his seconds in the span of the last 4 or 5 laps, and it's going to be interesting to see if Rick and Sprunky and company can catch up to the front of the pack now that they're clear of that Red Bull.
That's going to be, a pretty big task here for always Rick. He is starting, as you said, to close that gap to the racing point. Haven't really checked in on the penalty situation yet. Still early, but a lot of drivers do already have a penalty, most of them just being 3 seconds. Asunik and Cozy, the AlphaTauri team, both with a pair of 6-second penalties, so something to watch. Maybe not for the top 3 because they're pretty spaced out, but definitely for some of these guys in the mid to lower half of the points. Penalties might play a pretty big factor as they tend to do a lot of these times.
Yeah, Chill Mo now is going to be the man trying to hunt down the Red Bull of Monkeys, who's just not having a good time here in the wet conditions. But if there's a safety car, I mean, he was driving well earlier. It wasn't until that mistake and that he got swamped by the pack that he fell down. He was being defensive. He was holding his position. One mistake has cost him a few positions, which means if there's a safety car or something, I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the attack, maybe.
Yeah, maybe just a chance to regroup. I think a safety car at this point, that's the last thing that Bakker, Aizen, and F1 Richie really want to see, because at this point their goal is to oh, who's had a spin? It's Sprunky and the Haas.
Oh,
into
no.
the grass.
And yeah, there you go. And he's going to lose even more positions as he falls all the way down to the second last. Potentially worse, as Maverick is now going side by side with him. And, right ahead, I'm going to interrupt that. Monkeys and Mo were almost going side by side through Stowe. And now is Mo going to have another go? He is. He's down the inside. Oh, whoa, my Lord, that was close. Now Mo going for the switchback. And they're still side by side. Mo being very, very smart there not to stick that car in there. That was going to so close to end in disaster. And now chasing Monkeys down the straight. Who is going to have the advantage into the corner? That's the AlphaTauri of Cozy having a look now as they go into Stowe. And I don't know, but it's turned into a bit of a battle here. And I don't know if that's from Sprunky spinning, but oh no, what's happened? Mo is spun. Did he lock the rears up, or did he get hit?
I have no clue.
That car twisted like a turn top there, and around he went. I don't even think he got hit. It looked like he locked the rears up. What's happened to Mo?
Just as that was happening, Bumblebee was making a pretty daring move onto somebody. I can't quite remember. Maybe it was Cozy. Was a little bit of contact, and then thankfully everyone had to kind of scatter because of Mo spinning. It maybe even saved Bumblebee and Cozy having a bit of an incident.
Yeah, and that's going to send Mo right to the back of the pack. Unfortunate for him. Always Rick, though, has caught up to Chris now. He's 6 tenths back.
A great race, Always Rick. He's right where he qualified, I'm pretty sure, and hasn't really dipped down below too far out of the top 10, and starting to put some pressure on one of the top guys too. So it's weather conditions can change anything in a race.
Absolutely, and let's take a look at our onboard. It is no, I don't think the rain has changed at all. It looks like it's still the same consistent rain as before. Chris is going for it on Ix though. And side by side through Stowe. We've seen it before just a lap ago. We're seeing it again. Now Ix is going to try to force it around the outside. He was going to break later here. It's Ix and Chris breaking almost at the same time.
Look at Chris.
And Chris down the inside of Ix. Ix with a big wheel spin. and actually it turned into a bit of a switchback, and now Rick around him. Oh my lord, what a move from Rick, and now is Rick going to try into turn 1? No, he's not. Picked up a penalty for that move, but with Ix going so slow, he didn't really have a choice. And now Ix having a go again. Rick giving some room on the inside. Some good, respectful driving there. A little bit of a tap from Ix, but looks like it's okay. It's going to cost some time to Chris, though. And here on lap 12, everything is coming together. We're seeing battle after battle. And Rick, who was almost into P6, is now fighting for P7 with Ix. Can they catch back up to Chris, though?
I mean, I don't know how. Tokyo drifted through the final corner because he tried a pretty risky switchback, not at a place we usually see one, especially in the wet. Tokyo drifted, but because of that, always Rick found a great opportunity to go around the outside with a great move. And is that Ix going too wide into Cobbs?
It is, yeah. Going a little bit too wide there into Cobb's corner, but not so far that I think it's going to cost him in the long run. But it is opening him up to one wing's attack now. But really, this battle is now between Rick and Chris, who's again trying to fight his way back.
Walker is set sail. I mean, quite literally. He set the fastest lap of the race lap before, and he only goes a second faster on the lap after.
And yeah, 9 seconds that gap now, and Aizen is no slouch, but Walker has not shown this kind of speed at any point this season.
I don't know, to be honest, I don't think, it is the weather conditions have got to be playing a factor too, but I don't think we've seen anyone with a lead quite, it's maybe even this early, but in the wet, and even those kind of three just kind of set and sail by themselves. I haven't really seen that too often, just 3 cars round about the same pace, but such a difference between the rest of the pack.
No, I think that we've got our podium set out here, and
wow.
Unfortunately for your predictions, well, I mean, if they can keep it on track, we've got our podium set out. Not going to jinx them. I'm just saying that as long as they don't make a mistake, I don't think anything's going to change at the front. It's at the back, though, that everyone's still scrapping for positions.
Ix is really struggling after that incident. He's not had the same pace at all. No wing damage, but just can't get control of it.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. It's because we're nearing the end of this of the tire life for these wets. We've had our AWS Insights pit window. I think it is open. So are we going to see guys maybe pitting for wets? Or is anybody going to try to outlast this rain if it even happens?
Chill Mo, he's already made a pit stop. Wait, what's happened there? Is that Chris? That is Chris! He's gone out of Maggots back and had a spin.
Oh, that's a spin. There's no damage. It doesn't look like it. But that's a lot of positions lost from Chris.
Cars approaching him at a fast rate.
And, yeah, Cozy is now catching up to Chris. Not going to be able to catch up to him by the end of the straightaway. But,
guys are pitting.
Yeah, close to... Yeah, the front guys are pitting. And who's that staying out? I think that's CJ Butch trying to get an advantage by staying out. Is that one wing as well? Ooh, what's happening into the pit lane there? Cozy almost going onto the grass. Was that almost an overtake attempt? Did Chris squeeze him out? We kind of missed that. I was looking at our mini-map. But what happened to Chilmo? Did he just pit early, or did something else happen?
I think he must have pit, because he's the only one on a fresh set of wets, even before these guys had come into the pits. But, we've got a taker on the inters. It's Chris.
Oh, that's a bold move there. So we're going to have to keep an eye. And now that we've got different tires here, let's take a look at our tire graphic. And yeah, Chris on the inters. I think it's too wet for the inters.
Yep. Yeah, there's not really been a change. Usually you could kind of tell, especially from a commentator's perspective, maybe the sky will get ever so slightly lighter. The track won't be as shiny. Won't be as much spray. But, yeah, still raining pretty hard, coming down in waves, almost in sheets. So still not time for the inters yet, I don't think.
No, there's a lot of standing water as well. Our leader's in the pits. He was so far ahead that I did not notice he hadn't pit earlier.
Not too often you get to say that.
Yeah, is CJ Butch going to pit this time around? Should. I think. He should.
Yes.
Yeah, he does.
And he will.
And one wing, I think the rest of our...
no. Yes, he is.
Of our
No,
guys,
he's not.
One Wing's not going to pit.
We got
Neither is the
Gambler.
Stunek.
Well, these guys were kind of farther down the order before the top runners made their pit stops. And correct me if I'm wrong. You don't have is there a mandatory pit stop in the wets for a 25% race?
No. If you could make these tires last to the end, I believe you have that option.
No way
But
these guys are trying that.
I don't think they would. I don't think any tires would last an entire race. So it is kind of a mandatory pit stop in the sense that
That is true.
there's no way the wets would last all 26 laps.
Of course. But yeah, that is interesting. Maybe they want to go just a little bit longer. Maybe hope that it dries up a little bit. That way they don't have to go on another set of wets. Just go straight to the inters, which obviously is what Chris was thinking. Just the timing was wrong.
And yeah, and Chris, just taking a look at his gap here, and I think he's falling. I'm not sure anymore because he was.
Wait a minute. Yeah, well, these guys, Cozy and Monkeys had a bit of a battle. So if that might play into why he's catching them so quickly.
They also, I think they just came out of the pits, if I'm right, if I remember correctly. But
on that part of the track.
Yeah, that's not an overtaking opportunity. This is though. And I saw him losing a lot of time earlier when he just came out of the pits, but it is looking like the Inters might have a little bit of pace after all. Oh, not if you go on the grass with them.
No, they don't want to match the green walls with the green of the grass. That's for sure. That's definitely not going to help.
But yeah, Chris. I'm trying to compare his gap from Monkeys to the guys ahead of Monkeys, and it does look like it's falling just a little bit, isn't it?
The pace relative, I don't know. For me, it's completely up in the air because just looking at that. Oh!
And it does look like it's falling a little bit because it's falling off the track for Chris. And yeah, Chris is out of the race. That's where we saw Sprunky crash in qualifying. There's the safety car.
That's
and I think
just what One Wing and a Stunek wanted.
That is exactly what One Wing and a Stunek wanted. Unfortunately for them, they're quite far from the pits, but that actually might be a lifesaver though, because they're not going to have to do the whole lap after the pits on their Delta. So they're able to pit. They're going to be coming out right behind the Ferraris, I think.
Yep, so not going to keep the positions that they're in now, obviously. Azen and F1 Richie won't be pitting. But still, them staying out that extra little bit is going to help them in the long run, or at least right now, gain some positions that they may not have been able to otherwise.
And wow, that safety car, it looked almost like he was holding pace there, and then through the S's, through Maggots and Beckett's, he just loses the car right as we switched off to go look at, there was the battle between Crago and always Rick was getting pretty close. So I switched off to go see that, and right away he loses the rear, crashes, causes a safety car, and this race has been flipped on its head with 10 laps to go.
Yeah, and it was in one of the two places that you need grip the most, and I think that kind of really answered our question. Yeah, he may be gaining some time in the straights and in some of the less grip-needed corners, for lack of better words, but I guess when it mattered most, yeah, just the inters weren't enough to handle Maggots and Beckett's in the wet.
No, looks like it.
Well, One Wing is Stunek and Sprunky choose. They decided to be smart after seeing what happened to Chris. No inters for at least One Wing and a Stunek.
Both on the wet, so no other takers on this. I mean, after that,
they might get out ahead of F1, one of the Ferraris, Crago.
Yeah,
and they do.
I thought they were going to come out at least behind Maverick, but then Maverick pits, so they're going to be splitting the Ferraris.
So an extra position from what we had originally thought.
Nah, no takers on the inters. I think if you see Chris do that, I wouldn't take any. I wouldn't take the inters either. But yeah, You got one taker, yeah, definitely two wet. They're going, all right, I'm gonna play it safe. Everyone's if it becomes Inter's time, everybody's got to pit again, right? So you might as well play it safe. Keep that position. You're now 4th and 5th after taking advantage of that safety car. That's the smart move. That's the smart thing to do here.
But what's there going to be? There's going to be about 8-7 laps to go when the safety car does decide to go in. So the window for making a pit stop onto the Inters is, even if the weather does end up changing, it becomes kind of pointless. As the laps start to dwindle down, just the opportunity for you to make up that time just kind of goes away. But we never know that the weather could change drastically into dry. It could be dry for all we know, and the soft tires just become that much more advantageous. But it doesn't look like this wet weather's going anywhere anytime soon.
No, we've seen some drastic weather changes in races before. Races where, but it's not usually from wets to dry. It's usually from Inters to dry, and sometimes it takes 20 laps for it to dry out enough, and sometimes it takes a lap and a half. And you just got to be ready as a driver to pit at a moment's notice in these kinds of conditions. I don't know if these are the kinds of the conditions we need, though, because it's still very, very, very wet.
Yeah, and I think a good thing to judge. Oh, that's not a time to be picking up penalties, Cozy. But a good thing.
I was thinking the same. I went. There's no reason to push right now. It's behind safety car.
But especially for you and me, Knight, you see some of the rain. Just as I said before, it's coming down in what looks like sheets of rain. That's usually the telltale sign that it's the wet weather tires. Just by how hard the rain is coming down.
Anytime that there's standing water around the racing line as well, that's right away. You should be on the wets. There's a lot of sand. If anything, the rain's gotten heavier these past few laps.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. Although the fans don't really seem to care. Not a lot of umbrellas out there. So
Sprunky's had a spin under safety car. No,
and the Maverick.
I don't know what happened there. Did they?
Not sure.
Clip him, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, Cozy's down to P14 now, thanks to that spin. I did want to mention that penalties, I think, are going to play a role here in the final results. At the front, Aizen's got a 3-second, which kind of, if F1 Richie can stay close, that might lead to a flip. One Wing, no penalties as well, so if he can stay close, he might leapfrog Aizen. As soon as he's got 9 seconds, expect him to drop down the order if he finishes too close to the guys behind. Ix has got 12 seconds. Cozy has got 12 seconds. Maverick's got 5 seconds. Shomo, he's last, but he's got 6 seconds. So if he makes up positions, expect that to come into play. And as we head back under green here, safety cars pulling into the pits right now. Hope these guys got heat into their tires because they're going to need it. And One Wing taking a bit of a distance there. I think he's going to try to get a run onto this lead pack as they head through club and to the start-finish line. Bacher just timing it. Doesn't want to give him a good restart or a good run on him, and he's going to go now.
Until the last second.
Yeah, right until the last second. I think maybe should have gone a little earlier, but I think it's worked because he's made it through turn 1 with a gap. Aizen behind him, F1 Richie behind him, One Wing. It looks like everybody's gotten through okay, but further in the back, Asunik trying to move on One Wing. He's going to get forced just a little bit wide. Behind him, Craigo, always Rick, ISRL, Ix, and CJ Butch are side by side. And it's going to end with CJ Butch just ahead. Can you give us angles where we see all the cars, please? Thank you. CJ Butch now under pressure from Bumblebee, who's under pressure from Cozy. And he's going to go, but no, he's actually still going to go around Ix there. Could not even see Ix in her angle. Now down the inside. Oh, that was so close as CJ Butch goes a little bit deep. Ix doing a good job to give him room, giving him some respect, and he stays ahead. CJ Butch now under pressure from Bumblebee as Cozy's had a moment, and he's down at the back of the pack. Lets Monkeys and Chill Mo by. CJ Butch now, he started on pole position. He's down to P9 for CJ Butch. Poor race for him. I'm sure he's going to be wanting to go home and changing to some dry clothes. One Wing has kept up well with F4 Richie, but not that close to Aizen, so maybe that penalty not going to come into play after all. And he's got...
They've had a mistake.
Yeah, he's got a Sunic for company now.
Yeah, he got a bit of a bad exit out of Maggots and Beckett. The gap went from just under 0.4 to F1 Richie, now over a second, and now, as you mentioned, is Sunic starting to put a little bit of pressure on One Wing. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, don't jinx it. Always Rick has had a good restart as well. We've seen some strong performances from him. I do believe he got a top 5 in Belgium, didn't he? Or at the very least, he finished near the top, I think.
He definitely had one of his better results of the season, that is for sure. He put out a great performance, and so far he's backing it up with another solid performance here in the wet at Great Britain.
Yeah, definitely a step up from his Baku race. I'm sure he's going to be quite happy with that. No, I thought there was going to be a move. I think Sprunky thought about it on CJ Butch, and Sprunky, after that spin, already up into P10. So a good restart for him. Makes you wonder what he could have done without that spin on this very corner.
Yeah, and it's just what coulda, shoulda, woulda at this point. But you learn by your mistakes, and a lot of these drivers have learned by that mistake as well. You've got to think.
Oh, absolutely. As someone who I would say learned from his mistakes, I haven't seen him make a mistake today. It's Bakker, who's again building that gap up.
Yeah, but not quite at the rate that we saw at the start of this race, given he had to get past a couple more cars than he did this time. But again, One Wing, not really falling back. He's hanging his own. He's pulling his own weight here. That's the correct term. But still getting a little bit of pressure from Sunic and always Rick behind him. Even Krago starting to catch up just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. The big battle, though, there's two of them brewing on track right now. CJ Butch, Sprunky, Maverick, which he's had on our screen for the last little bit, but ahead, Sunic, always Rick, and One Wing, like you mentioned, just getting close. And I mean, even Monkeys and Chill Mo's, this safety car restart has kind of put some wood back into the fire, and we should have an exciting finish with 5 laps to go. Nobody's attempted the inters again. Nobody's stopped twice. So it's a pretty straightforward race, and this one is definitely going to be determined on pace. And I do have to tip my hat off to these guys, because in 21 laps in, we haven't seen any bad incidents. The only DNF we saw was a solo error.
Oh,
and
no. One Wing picks up his first penalty, and I think that is a 3 seconds, so no longer that advantage for him. So now he's really going to have to truly try and keep Sunic behind him rather than hoping to maybe keep within 3 seconds of him if he were to get past.
And and now Rick, I don't know what happened to Sunic, but now Rick is just right behind him.
Yeah, One Wing's pulled a bit of a gap to a Sunic, so maybe had a bit of a moment somewhere around the track, because, yeah, as you mentioned, haven't seen the gap between Rick and Sunic that close quite yet. And now he's going to get a bit of a slipstream, and now Aizen picks up another penalty. That's really going to hurt him if he's going to want to keep that P2, and even if he's going to want to keep that podium, honestly, because let's see, One Wing he's only about 2.5 behind, or 2.3 behind Aizen. And with that 3 second penalty, I think Aizen might be in a bit of trouble here if I've got my math right.
He's definitely going to be dropping one position, I think. With that penalty to One Wing, those penalties to Sunic, Rick behind it, I think he's still safe in terms of the podium.
How many seconds does Aizen have? I thought he had 6.
Oh, he's got 6. He does have 6.
Yeah.
I thought he only had 3 still. So, yeah, Aizen definitely in trouble here.
And it really just kind of feels like we're in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment. No one really wants to make the move just yet, because if you get it wrong here, then, you've gone this far to lap 22 in a good position. You don't want to ruin it after having come this far. So it really does feel like a bit of a holding pattern right now.
Yeah, 4 laps left. I don't think anybody wants to make a mistake here, but Aizen should definitely be pushing and trying to put at least 3 seconds between himself and One Wing. Now, just barely gets it, so if he keeps this pace up, he's going to be able to do so. Bakker with the fastest lap, 1:39.5, so his pace is not even peaked yet.
That is unbelievable. Yeah. That's insane. He's set 3 fastest laps of the race. All have been spaced out by at least a second of each other. So putting some really good laps in as he's starting now to kind of pull away from Aizen and F1 Richie. And is F1 Richie starting to close in on Aizen?
It's just a little bit, but I mean, for Aizen, that doesn't matter too much. So what matters to him is that gap to One Wing. Yep. I'll tell you who wishes he had a bigger gap behind him. It's Ix, who's got 15 seconds in penalties now. He's going to be dropping way outside of the top 10 if the race finishes like this.
And that's going to really be unfortunate for him because he's gotten a lot of good camera time, a lot of great battles. Even Tokyo drifted through the final corner for good measure. But, penalties are the real killer here, as we've come to find out in F1 2020.
Yeah, in our comments, Jordan Visser saying, rain and a Dutch driver, you won't get a better duo. Clearly not, because he's just absolutely flying. I guess, the Dutch people in the rain, they're in their elements. Is that Sprunkion Maverick tried. Bakker absolutely in his element right now. 3.94 second gap to Aizen in P2. Well clear of P3, P4. So he's just got to keep the car steady, and he's going to pick up his first W of the season if he can just make it 2.5 more laps, 3 full laps of racing. As everybody's rounding out to start lap 24 out of 26. And
he's in a good position here. Sorry, but he's got the least amount of penalties in the top 10, and with the Sunik and Rick clearly less than 15 seconds each ahead of him, a 9-second and a 6-second penalty. Definitely, he'll probably be moving up at least 2 spots. But I think that's going to be it for Crago. But then a lot of things can happen in the last 2 laps. So
if One Wing picks up another penalty, then all of a sudden Crago's looking at maybe even a top 4 here.
Yep. Absolutely. So I'm still amazed by that gap that Bakker has put. Not surprised, especially after the start of the race, but doesn't mean I still can't be shocked or surprised is not the right word. It's amazing that in these conditions that he's got it figured out. He's just doing something right that a lot of these other guys just can't quite figure out. But props to him for sure.
Coming around here, Bakker to lap 25. He's got to do it 2 more times, and so do the rest of these guys. And we've had a very clean race. I mentioned it earlier. I want to mention it again. And as Bakker sets another fastest lap. A lot of the others, they've done a good job keeping it on track. We haven't seen spins or incidents. Bakker takes a penalty. I think he went wide there, didn't he? Judging by your reaction.
Yeah, but no, I saw the penalty, but then I saw it may not matter. The leader getting a penalty is always going to get me like, but yeah, with Aizen with 6 seconds.
Oh, Ix with a
drastic
big moment through turn 1 there, and forcing CJ Busch almost to check up. And he's just holding these guys back at this point. The lack of DRS is making it so tough on everybody.
Yeah, and kind of saw that earlier in the race with that train. That was kind of the DRS, kind of staying in that train is the de facto DRS. But as they started to get spaced out a little bit, it kind of, that advantage, if you will, kind of went away.
18 seconds of penalties. He is, by my calculations, going to be dropping right to behind Bumblebee. I mean, the only reason he wouldn't be dropping behind Cozy is because Cozy also has a fair bit of penalties himself.
But
So
I think that's unfortunate for Ix, because with the way that we saw him race today, I think he definitely deserved to get a little bit more points than
yeah,
just
absolutely. But
18.
at a certain time, you got to keep it between the white lines, and
Yep.
not
Yep.
able to do that today, and it's going to cost them in the form of penalties, and that's the risk if you start racking up penalties. And I mean, beyond 6 or 9 seconds of penalties, then you can kind of only blame yourself. Even 9 seconds, like unless it's a track where there's a corner that's just natural to go wide, and you pick up a penalty there every lap almost. Even then, you got to start sticking it between the lines, and if you just rack up those penalties, then that's on you. And Ix has not been able to save himself from going wide there as he lets Maverick through, unless Maverick took that one on purpose.
Always Rick starting to put some pressure on his Sunic here on the final lap. He's going to get past him on penalties. Is he smart to start battling here? Putting both of these drivers maybe at risk for a collision, even though what it's looking like he may just get past him on penalties. Still got to finish the lap though. So,
well, for Always Rick, he wants to put at least 7/10 up on Krago, so he does not lose that position.
That's true.
So that's not going to happen now. Though, as Rick is spun, and Rick is spun coming onto the old pit straight, and luckily for him, he gets going. He's not going to lose a whole lot of positions. He is going to fall behind the Alfa Romeos, though. And Rick, unfortunately for him, I guess that answers your question. Is it smart to start battling? He was pushing too hard, and now he loses the car, and he's going to lose some positions.
Yeah, and that looks like it might be the... Yeah, that's unfortunate for him, but Bakker coming around the final couple corners now with a dominating performance.
Yeah, and coming through the last one here, Bakker is going to win the British Grand Prix, and it's a first victory for him. Aizen's going to cross the line in second to get his podium. He's going to fall down to third, though,
One Wing.
as F1 Richie gets it. One Wing gets into fourth place. A Sunic P5 for now until the rest of the penalties come in. Maverick's going to cross the line P7, so that puts a Sunic up into P6. Ix is going to cross the line. He's going to start falling back here down to P12, so I guess he's managed to recover that slightly. Monkey's getting a few positions off the start and getting himself up into the points. And Ix, yeah, he's going to fall from P8 to P14. Unfortunate for him, but what a race we had here.
Very well done to all of these guys. As you mentioned a lot of times during the broadcast, just one retirement, and it was due to the conditions. Probably one of the most impressive drives from each and every single one of these guys to keep it clean with the conditions, and I think it paid off with a great result from OWR One Wing, who only had, I think, 2 points coming into this race. And yeah, a huge result for One Wing.
Absolutely, and I'm sure he's going to be super, super pleased with that one. As will Bakker with his first one. We'll have to get these guys in here for the interviews. But your top three, Bakker, Richie, Aizen, One Wing behind him, Krago, Sunic, Maverick, Always Rick, Sprunky, Chill Mo getting himself into the top 10 there. Somehow at the end, he was far back at some point in the race, so a great recovery from Chill Mo. 42 seconds back before the safety car gets himself into the top 10. CJ Butch, our pole sitter, down to P11. Monkeys, P12. Bumblebee, P13. Ix, P14. And then Cozy, your last finishing car. Chris, the only DNF of the event. And we'll get our winners hopefully into the party, our podium holders. I see that F1 Richie has joined already. And yeah, Richie, can you hear us? I don't think you can hear us just yet. We'll keep getting everything set up. Just let us know when you're ready to talk, Richie. But what a race there. And we're going to see, I think, Richie extending his point lead because Bakker is behind him, Aizen is behind him in terms of the points, but not by a whole lot there, as Aizen is the man that needs to catch up to him. Aizen finished right behind him. And
got a couple guys in the party now.
Yeah, I'll let you take over the interview here.
All right, yeah. Well, let's go ahead and start with the race winner, Bacher. Didn't start on pole, had to put in a little bit more work, but on lap 1 was when you kind of made the move and didn't look back. Was that really your plan, or is that just things how they played out?
I think it just played out for me, because I took a risk doing the qualification on my wet setup, and I noticed Aizen and Butch fighting straight from turn 1, and I saw a gap. I just went for it. And I'm very happy to take P1 this race.
Yep, absolutely. That was one of the points that me and Knight were talking about, is that who was going to qualify on the dry or the wet setup, and how would that turn out in the race. And well, we got our answer. That's a win for Bacher. F1 Richie hanging on to the podium. Got a little bit tense there in the final couple laps with the penalties, but were you confident at all, or still confident through it all out, or was there a little bit of added pressure?
Hello?
Yeah, hello, F1 Richie.
All right. It felt like pressure all the way through the race, to be honest, because the conditions were terrible, and first lap was a bit messy and a bit scary trying to get through people. I had a bit of a moment with CJ later in the race. I think he braked a little bit later than me, but I managed to keep hold of the car, and it was just a case of keeping pressure on Ace until the end then. I couldn't catch him, I wouldn't have passed him on track.
Yep, and even though that may be the case, still a podium, and got Aizen in here too. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right, good. And so that's a podium for you too, not unaccustomed to being there. Starting on the front row, just describe how your race went, with the conditions. How much did that hamper you maybe trying to catch Bacher?
I went on a dry setup, whatever setup just I have for dry races, hoping to get high up on the grid to avoid lap 1 troubles, especially into turn 1. And it kind of gave me a problem of controlling the car, which is why I picked up the penalties. It was mostly a bunch of not really understeer out of corners, but it was just kind of hard to adjust to, so I ended up turning into corners too early, fearing that I would go wide instead. But Bacher was just way too fast in front of me. I could not keep up with the pace. I could at the beginning for the first few laps, or later on just not at all.
Yep, and at the end of the day, kind of just the weather and the setups kind of really throw everything up in the air. But that is your podium here in Division 3 at Great Britain. And I'm going to hand it back over to you to sign us off here.
Yeah, well, I mean, before I do the quick sign off, guys, congratulations on the podiums. This is a great race to watch. We didn't see a whole lot of you because you guys had so much pace that we saw you on the start, and then at the end. But
and the mini-map.
Yeah, and the mini map. But you guys did an absolutely fantastic job, so congrats on the big haul of points on the little virtual trophy there. And thank you to everybody who tuned in to the broadcast. We're going to be back in 38 minutes with some Division 2 action from the same track, hopefully with a little bit more sunshine. But if you haven't done so already, make sure to check the links in the description for our merch and all our other social pages. Follow wherever you want if you haven't already. And thank you for tuning in. We'll see you for Division 2.